Hello everyone, welcome to this edition of Media Mark Weather. It's great to have you here with me today. We're going to be looking at both the Atlantic and the Pacific because we do have some tropical wave action that bears watching, and by the end of the month, we could have something that may look pretty menacing here off the southeast coast of the United States right around the 29th and 30th. So we're going to watch, see where these tropical waves are going to be happening. Also, we're going to see the intertropical convergence zone really blossom out here in the Atlantic. We could have some interesting opportunities for some spin-ups here. And here into the Eastern Pacific, we're going to watch Tropical Storm Erick become a hurricane. Could it become a major hurricane and make landfall just east of Acapulco? We're going to take a look at all the details for you. And here across Eastern North America, classic Ring of Fire heat dome death ridge takes over. Could we see some big mesoscale convective systems around the outer periphery? We'll take a look at all the details. Let's get into it. All right, so starting off here with the tropics here into the Caribbean and the Gulf, we will touch on Erick in several minutes from now. So if you can't wait, the timestamps down below, but here it is. We're going to start off with the Atlantic. Do we have a chance of any tropical storm before the end of June? Well, we're going to explore that possibility. Here's the intertropical convergence zone. I know many of you in Jamaica, the Cayman Islands, through the northern part of the Caribbean islands have been very dry, very hot. So let's see if we can get you any relief. We're going to watch Trinidad Tobago get these gusty showers and thunder showers through the 20th here. Also, we got some moisture Pacific side as well as a tropical wave here moving through the Bay of Campeche mid to late week. Surges of moisture here with these tropical waves. Very quiet here across the northern Caribbean through eastern Gulf. Now watch this. As we get into the 20th into the 21st, I'm very interested to see this area right here. It's blossoming quite a bit, and we're going to explore the European model in a couple minutes to see if this is showing up on the European model, because, you know, sometimes the GFS can grab onto some storms that aren't quite materializing. We know that all too well, but here it is on the 21st. This is blossoming quite nicely, and we may actually have some showers. It's not showing up too much on the European this far north, but GFS is wanting to bring some moisture here into Jamaica and the Cayman Islands. So we'll look at those rainfall amounts too, all the way northward to Cancun here. So this is pretty interesting. Here's a low pressure trying to initialize here just east of Costa Rica. So here it is on the 22nd. If we just zoom out a bit, you can see what's going on here. Intertropical convergence zone staying to the south. This area kind of bogging down here on the eastern part of Nicaragua and Honduras. Heavy rain will be likely. Does this have a chance of developing? Well, the 23rd into the 24th, it hugs the coastline. So at least with this model run of the GFS, you can see what's going on. The further inland it goes, the less of a chance of development, but more flooding will occur. Through parts of Honduras and Belize, heavy rain will be likely. Look at the eastern Gulf up here. Clear as a bell through the northern part of the Caribbean. Even the Lesser Antilles getting a break around the 25th here. Now, this area of low pressure, we do start to see, I know it's quite busy here with all this moisture, but there's an area of low pressure showing up right around Belize here. This is on the 26th into the 27th. Now, look what starts to happen over here, too. And this is an area that's going to be showing up on the European as well. Going to watch this area off the southeast coast. This is a tropical wave, as well as this area move into the northwest. This is kind of stationary, so to speak. It kind of moves a little bit towards Florida and the Carolinas. This area kind of surges into the Bay of Campeche, and then we may start to see some development here. So keep an eye, South Texas. Some of these will be getting pretty close to you. As we get through the 28th into the 29th here, look what starts to happen. Much of the activity from the Western Caribbean does surge into the Gulf. You get this disturbance around Florida as well as Tampico, Mexico, and South Texas. Look at that surge of moisture heading north. It is quite possible that we could have something try to develop at least just before the end of June here. So I'm going to continue to watch this. Western Caribbean into the Gulf. This is showing persistence here north of Cancun with a conveyor belt of moisture here into the Central Gulf. And the Central Gulf is running very well above average here for sea surface temperatures. So development here on the last frame is quite possible. So there it is. That looks pretty interesting here into the Gulf. Now, one thing to note back through here, the intertropical convergence zone, we do get a resurgence around the 26th into the 27th, right around Trinidad, Tobago, Grenada, but that kind of sinks to the south. But you do start to see out here towards the Cape Verde Islands, things do start to look a bit more interesting. So we'll continue to watch it here. Let's take a look at the European model. All right, so here we go. Thanks to Tropical Tidbits here for the European model analysis. Yeah, our tropical system over here showing up very nicely. This thing's going to really bomb, and I'll show you this momentarily on the GFS as well. But yeah, that's going to get down to 981 millibars, 985. Look at on the Atlantic side here. So let's just back it up just a hair here if we can. There we go. So yeah, lots of rain here with this tropical wave moving through the central areas of Central America. And look at here, moving through Trinidad, Tobago, we got another big wave as the intertropical convergence zone really pushing here towards the northwest. So yeah, it's going to be pretty interesting. The big show, though, here is into the eastern Pacific. As usual, it's going like crazy with our E-name storm. But look at this surge of moisture through Central America, eastern part of Mexico here up through Tampico. We'll watch South Texas too, see if this moisture gets up here with these waves. But look at this, Jamaica, the Cayman Islands, Dominican Republic, Puerto Rico, you're pretty void of a lot of shower and thunderstorm action. Look at this high pressure up here. This is kind of weird. We got like a lot of shower and thunderstorm activity right into the center of the high pressure. Very interesting there. But right through Central America, the western part of the Caribbean here, looking pretty interesting. Let me just back that up on the European. So it looks like right around Thursday, June 19th here, look what happens. This makes landfall as a 986 millibar hurricane right in the area of Acapulco area, it looks like. We'll take a closer look here on the GFS momentarily, but looking pretty interesting here as we head through June 20th here, Friday into the weekend. Yeah, we do try to get a flare up here of another tropical wave through Central America. All right, and as we continue here, you can see tropical wave action continues through Sunday of next week, June 22nd. But look at this. It's pretty suppressed far to the south. I mean, it usually is this time of year, but you don't really see anything coming too far north until around the 23rd. Look what starts to happen here, right through the central and southern Lesser Antilles. We start to get a surge. We also start to get an area of low pressure here in the southern Caribbean. And as we watch through June 24th into the 25th here, do we see any signs? We start to see something come together here on the European model. And this is the model you really want to look for because sometimes the GFS picks up on these storms that never really materialize. But on the European, usually when it shows something, it means it. So watch here, June 25th into the 26th. I am really interested in this area here. I think we have something potentially to watch. Also watching some shower and thunderstorm activity here in the Eastern Gulf. Trinidad, Tobago, you're going to get a lot of rain as well as Central America. I hate to tell you, I know you need some relief here in Jamaica and the Cayman Islands. Look at even Dominican Republic here. Not much at all. This is kind of crazy. It's going to, those temperatures are really going to crank up. But look at here, June 27th. Yeah, we got a big old tropical wave here in the western and central part of the Gulf here. And we'll continue to watch these areas as well. Could we have a storm before the end of the month? I think it's still potentially possible. Our window is slowly closing, though. But as we get into June 28th and 29th, we're seeing another area. It's really interesting to see this big tropical wave. Any one of these areas could develop. And look at this area hanging out off the southeast coast as well. We're going to get some interesting activity showing up on many of the models here off the southeast coast. Potential area of low pressure that could go subtropical come the end of the month, beginning of July. There it is, showing up very prominently here on the European model. We'll take a look, see if that's going to be showing up here as we continue to go with future runs. So, yeah, the European showing northern Caribbean islands drier, and southern areas, western areas, much more moisture latent. So let's take a look at our sea surface temperature analysis here. Temperature anomalies, western Atlantic, still on fire here through the Gulf, northwestern Caribbean, 1 to as much as 2.5 degrees above average. But look at out here into the eastern and southern Caribbean through the Cape Verde area. we're actually running about a half to as much as a degree below average here. So that's the dust, the Saharan dust taking over, as well as a lot of tropical waves that have caused some upwelling as well. So we'll continue to watch, see if this trend continues. All right, so let's take a look at precipitation amounts, if we can get this cranking on the European model, the Western Caribbean here. Yeah, look at all our activity over here in southern Mexico. With our potential major, could this become a major hurricane? Landfall in southern Mexico, quite possible. But look at through this week, very dry. I know a lot of you said you need some rain and cool down here in Jamaica, Cayman Islands. Look at this. Dominican Republic, there's not a lot of rain to talk about all the way through Puerto Rico. But look at Central America here, Belize, upwards of 1 to 200 millimeters here. Even Honduras, this surge as we get these tropical waves kicking in, this potential disturbance come the end of the month. Yeah, look at Nicaragua. We just can keep getting inundated here, as well as Belize, upwards of 200 to 300 millimeters. But here it is. Here's the east coast of Belize, 200 to 300 millimeters. Northern Honduras here, 200 on average. And look at Jamaica, only about 30 to 50 millimeters here. Same for Dominican Republic. Cayman Islands, a little bit more, closer to 60. And then back towards Puerto Rico here, we're only eking out a quarter to a half inch. Even the Turks Caicos here in the Bahamas, not much until you get into the northern Bahamas, where we'll be up towards 60 to 100 millimeters. So for the Western Caribbean, the GFS model, it's the latest model. So here it is. Through the weekend, you can see not much going on here. Jamaica, Cayman Islands, Dominican Republic, Haiti, Puerto Rico. The big show here is in Nicaragua, northeastern Honduras, eastern Belize, all the way up to Tampico, Mexico. These areas going to get 100 to 250 millimeters of rainfall. Look at this, though. As we get into next week, that tropical wave disturbance type combo here, look at this. Even Cancun getting in on some of these big rainfall totals. This is kind of crazy. Some parts of Belize getting upwards of 200 to 350 millimeters. Cancun, you're up towards 275. Tampico, Mexico, 533. Yeah, this is kind of crazy. And look at this. The GFS actually puts a little bit more moisture here into Jamaica over the next week and a half, 2 weeks. Eastern areas, Portland Parish, upwards of 146 millimeters. Most of the central part of the island, though, barely getting 15 to 20 millimeters here. The western part of the island getting up to 60. So it depends on where you are here, obviously. Dominican Republic, parts of the interior highlands here, upwards of 120 millimeters. But most areas getting 40 to 60 millimeters of rainfall. And let's take a look at the Eastern Caribbean here. Yeah, Trinidad, Tobago, up to St. Vincent, Grenada. These areas, we're going to see a tropical surge. Northeast Caribbean Islands, though, if you do have a vacation up here, that is beautiful. But, yeah, look at this. Trinidad, Tobago, these areas approaching 100, 125 millimeters over the next week or two. And getting here into the Eastern Caribbean, what is going on with the moisture? Yeah, as we get into next week in particular, Northeast Caribbean Islands, not much to be had here. Maybe Puerto Rico up to a quarter to a half an inch, but Trinidad, Tobago area, look at this. Some areas getting upwards of 175 millimeters here. We'll watch these big tropical waves all the way up to Grenada, St. Vincent areas. These areas could get over 125 millimeters, but yeah, not much up here towards the Virgin Islands. All right, so we're watching Tropical Storm Erick coverage here into the Eastern Pacific. Watch this take root here on the GFS model over the next couple days. This storm could potentially approach major hurricane status. Now, the National Hurricane Center taking this up towards 110, but some of the models are taking this up higher. Now, look at as we head through the 18th into the 19th. Let's zoom in here on the Mexican coastline. This is going to become quite a powerful storm as it moves here to the northwest. And here's Acapulco. So far, it looks like the good news is it's going to track just to your east, but you're still going to get some gusty winds and heavy rain. And all it would take is a little wobble, especially since the angle this is coming into the coast. So I want you to stay tuned. These heavily populated areas could still be impacted here. Landfall point here. Here is June 19th at 11 a.m. So we're getting into Thursday morning. Here's Thursday afternoon. It looks like it's going to come ashore here, at least with this timing and this angle of the coastline, right around Thursday afternoon, just east of Acapulco here. So watch out. These areas on the east side, definitely going to see the worst of this storm, as usually is the case with flooding rains inland. So there you have it. A lot of moisture moving up through that could make it over here. Moisture into the western part of the Gulf as well. So we'll keep an eye on it here. The Eastern Pacific is really on fire these days as we continue to go out here in time. Is there any other storminess we could be watching here? Well, here we have it. We got lots of tropical waves lining up, and I don't think it'll be too long before we see an F-name storm. It is kind of spinning up here, as you can see right around the 27th here. We could have another landfalling storm or even hurricane. That wants to bring it over here into the Western Gulf as well. We'll keep an eye on it. All right, so looking at the future radar, we actually have a lot to talk about here as we go throughout. Wow, look at this. Yeah, there's a lot of major thunderstorms out here. Big severe weather outbreak. Also some shower and thunderstorm action here from the Appalachians all the way up here into parts of the mid-Atlantic Northeast. The big story is going to be this big, massive mesoscale complex system that continues to engulf, parts of the Midwest, Ohio Valley, and the Southern Plains here. We're also going to see through 11 a.m. on Wednesday here. Look what's going on. We have some showers and thunderstorms up in the Northeast, also some showers and thunderstorms. But watch this. This low pressure here, this could kick off something very interesting throughout the day. Look at this. Let me just back up. This is 3 p.m. on Wednesday. So this is where we got thunderstorms all the way down to the Gulf Coast, even into parts of Pennsylvania and the Catskills and Poconos, and Lake Ontario region, and Lake Erie. So the thing we're going to be watching, look how this mesoscale convective system gets cranking. This is 7 p.m. on Wednesday evening. These could be some very powerful thunderstorms approaching Toledo down to Columbus, Cincinnati, north central Kentucky. And look how these move to the east. They do move into more stable air, though. So it doesn't look like it becomes more of a broken line here. Still think there could be some isolated severe here into northeastern and eastern Ohio, but that pretty much fizzles out, and most of the activity consolidates down here to the south here into southern Ohio, and then southward to the Mississippi River Valley. And then as we get through 9 a.m. on Thursday, we're going to set us up for some severe weather from northern Alabama and Georgia, the Carolinas, all the way up through parts of New York, Pennsylvania here, Maryland, Virginia. These areas we're going to watch throughout the day. This goes through 2 p.m. Now let's take a look. We can go a little bit further out on our NAM 3 kilometer here. So let's go out. Here we go, 49 hours. So the NAM 3 kilometer is showing a little different. Most of the activities further to the north here, but we got some big thunder boomers here in western North Carolina up through Maryland and Lake Ontario, Lake Erie region. Watch these blossom throughout the day. This could be a very serious situation for severe weather. Look it up here into parts of the mid-Atlantic and the Northeast. I-81 corridor, Binghamton, Scranton, down to Harrisburg, Washington, D.C., Richmond. Some of these could be supercells up here by Utica, Albany eventually. Look at this. Let's get a timestamp, 9 p.m. A little bit of a broken line here through New York City, but it's possible we could see this refill in. But it gets to the coastline here where the more stable marine air is. So there you have it. So for your Wednesday, a majorly enhanced risk of severe weather exists from about Detroit down to Fort Wayne and all the way down here just southeast of St. Louis, southeastern Missouri, northwestern part of Ohio. Watch out. This could be a very serious situation. Damaging wind, large hail, mesoscale convective systems getting going. These bow echoes, and could have some spin-ups as well, tornado action. And as we progress towards Thursday, the big day is going to be here through parts of North Carolina, Virginia, Washington, D.C., eastern Pennsylvania, New Jersey, all the way up to Vermont, all of eastern New York, and much of upstate New York here as well. New York City's included here. Yeah, watch out. This is going to be a very powerful day. I would not be surprised if some portion of this is maybe an enhanced risk. All right, so let's pick up where our future radar left off here on the GFS as we continue to go through time. Let's see what we got going on here as this thing loads. There we go. So we got those mesoscale convective complexes moving to the east here as we head through the 19th off the coastline. There it is, the 20th, another little one here through the lakes, but that pretty much fizzles as the big heat death ridge takes over. This ring of fire pattern, look at that. Mesoscale convective complex around the northern periphery may clip parts of extreme northern Ohio, western New York, western Pennsylvania. We'll have to keep an eye on this. You can get that this time of year, especially with the ring of fire. Depends on how far to the south this tracks. You can see through the 20 seconds. Some of these areas could get some big-time storminess with those mesoscale convective complexes. But I want to show you something here. We can really zoom out. Look at this double barrel high. This is a major classic ring of fire pattern, and it really keeps it quiet across the east, with the exception there could be some convection down here through parts of the southern Appalachians. This storm track is forced way up and over this area of high pressure. That's going to continue through the middle part of next week until we get the high pressure retreating way over here in Bermuda. Then we start to see on the west part of this high pressure moisture coming up from the Gulf. Here's the 25th into the 26th. You can start to see evidence here into parts of the Gulf, Bahamas, some storminess taking effect here. So we'll have to watch that. There it is, flaring up off the coast, kind of like the European model here, just a little bit further off the coast. So we'll have to watch this. This is showing up on both models here on the western periphery of this high pressure. As this high drifts to the east, that ring of fire moves through parts of Indiana, Ohio, Pennsylvania, New York, and southern New England. That's a pattern we'll have to keep an eye on here, with big surges of tropical moisture heading on into Texas and the western Gulf. All right, so we're taking a look at the European model here, picking up where our future radar left off. So here we go. I just wanted to show you this. Here on Wednesday, you can see the Euro does show a broken line moving through parts of Ohio, Michigan as well. So yeah, early on, you can see we're really cranking these lines out. So they do get into more stable air, but watch out Thursday. There it is, the tail end of our future radar on our mesoscale models. We're going to line up those storms. Now, as that storm pulls away, that's a pretty vigorous storm. You can see high pressure building off the coast here. We do have some showers hanging out off the outer banks here. Nothing too terribly heavy. Now, watch as we continue to go through time here. Here's Sunday, the 22nd. This super ridge, this death ridge, so to speak, this heat dome is just going to blast that inferno ridge here across the east. And look at this. We're going to start to see these mesoscale convective complexes drop down into northern New York, parts of northern and central New England. So that's going to be pretty interesting around this area of high pressure. You also see a return flow of tropical moisture coming off the north-central Gulf, so we'll get some storms firing as well. Also, these storms are going to be forced up and over this massive, huge ridge of high pressure through Monday, the 23rd. You can see these mesoscale convective complexes get forced way up and over, but we do start to see evidence right around here through the Great Lakes into the northeast of some of these storms firing. And look at this through central Ohio as well on the 26th. So we're getting ourselves set up into a classic summertime weather pattern here where temperatures soar into the 90s. And look at all the activity is right around. This is the classic ring of fire that we've been talking about. Look at this, the 28th. We head towards the end of the month. Look at this activity up here. You know some of this could be strong to severe gully washers here along the Gulf Coast as well. But yeah, Ohio, Indiana, New York State, Pennsylvania, you could see some big thunder boomers here, and that propagates towards the south here on the 29th. Look at this. Some of these could be really strong as well as this cold front blast to the southeast, and we do see a cooler Canadian high building in behind it just in time for the end of June here. And then look what starts to set up. Yeah, one of these coastal type systems, these troughs kicking in, and it's kind of blocked to the north by this high pressure. So yeah, it looks like we're going to start to bring much more rain back into the southeast here. And could this be the start of something subtropical or tropical? It is quite possible the way it's retrograding here. And precipitation amounts here on our European run, as you can see, we go out here in time. What you're seeing is a lot of rain through the end of the week, the Midwest into parts of the Ohio Valley here with these big thunderstorms, 1 to as much as 2 inches. And then as we continue through the end of the month, let's just go through the 29th here because, you know, the coastal or whatever this is starts to pop up. The big story is going to be the Midwest up here. Look at some of these areas could be approaching 3 to 6 inches of rain here along the north central Gulf Coast too. So this ring of fire. Now, as we just progress the last day of June here, watch this. into the first part of July. This takes us through July 2nd. Look at the tropical moisture really starting to surge from Florida all the way up to eastern Carolina. Some areas getting 4 to as much as 7 inches of rain. And let's take a look at your rainfall totals here. I don't know how that happened, but let's flip over to our rainfall totals here. Let's see. Total QPF. There we go. So here it is on the GFS. You can see going through the weekend here. Yeah, anywhere from 1, 2, maybe as much as 3 inches here from the Mississippi, Ohio River Valley. Just watch it south of Texas here with that tropical moisture. Now, as we get into next week, you can see just through the 26th here, you can see that classic ring of fire really taking over. These storms, these mesoscale convective systems moving around the outer periphery. But watch as we head through the 27th, 28th, 29th, we really start to get a surge of tropical moisture here into Florida off the southeast coast, South Texas, and look it up here into interior lakes in the northeast Ohio Valley region. We're just piling on more rain, averaging out to 2 to 4 inches in many areas. And before we continue with more weather coverage here, don't forget if you made it this far in the video and you like it, smash that like button, everyone. It really does help. Question or comment down below. I always love to read your questions or comments and respond to you. And don't forget, if you haven't subscribed yet, what are you waiting for? Hit that subscribe, bell notification button down below so you're alerted with all my future weather video updates. And don't forget, check out my Hurricane 2025 complete forecast of how many storms I think is going to happen and where the hotbed areas are going to be. Link in the description down below and also at the end of this video, so be sure to check that out. Let's continue. So how about this death ridge across the east? This major heat dome takes effect. There it is for the weekend into next week. Look at this. If I can get my red pencil here to work, there it is. So as we continue to go out here in time, how long does this last? There's Wednesday, the 25th, 28th. It does lose some of its grip, but you know temperatures are going to be above average. It's not until the following, say, Sunday and Monday, 29th and 30th of June, you do start to get this storminess, and that's in response to that area of low pressure. What will this be? Will this be a tropical low? We'll have to see, because it is starting to look really interesting here on the European model. And if we take a look at the NAO index here, look at this. We are running positive here. You would think that we'd be less stormy, but seems to be a lot of blocking going on. And looking at our MJO index here, you can see, yeah, we are clustered right around 2 or 3, but yeah, the models are really having a hard time figuring out where we're going. Oh, it looks like the model's trying to say your guess is as good as mine. All right, so let's take a look at our Canadian weather outlook. Are we going to get some relief up here into especially northern Alberta? Well, let's take a look at the precipitation outlook. So as we continue to go through time, if we can, there we go. So here it is, June 18th into the 19th. You can see where our storm track is. These storms are diving from central British Columbia, southern Alberta, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, through southern Ontario, especially southern Quebec, and out here into the Canadian Maritimes. So that's going to be our storm track. Unfortunately, that doesn't do much up here for the Canadian wildfires. We do get a little bit of pivot northward here. Southern Ontario and southeastern and southern Quebec, New Brunswick, you're going to see these storm tracks. Look at here on the 21st. Big area of low pressure winding up. Tremendous precipitation here on the northwest side. Heavy rain. Severe weather out ahead of it here through Saskatchewan and Manitoba. High pressure building into southeast Canada and western Canada. Unfortunately, continue dry up here where we need it with the wildfires. But by the 22nd, you can start to see evidence we do get a little bit of some good rain up here into northern Alberta. So that is some good news. Here on the 22nd, look at this big storm up here into northern Ontario. That's going to push towards central and northern parts of Quebec. And then as we go through the 23rd into the 24th, you can see high pressure building in once again as these storms are forced up and over that area of high pressure. We get an area of storminess from the United States that pushes some big time rain and thunderstorm action into southern Saskatchewan, Manitoba, and Ontario here. That pushes towards the northeast. You can see as we go through the 22nd, or the 27th, I should say, into the 28th, here we go. We get some raindrops up here into extreme northern Alberta with this system. So that's some good news. And you see these low pressures pinwheeling around as this high retreats up here into Hudson Bay. Last frame here showing pretty dry out here through British Columbia, Alberta, Saskatchewan, southern Manitoba. We got that storm wrapping up here. And then southeast Canada, very stormy here through New Brunswick, Nova Scotia, and parts of southern Ontario and Quebec. All right, let's take a look at the European model for rainfall amounts for Canada here. Look what we got going on. So this is some great news. Unfortunately, northern Alberta, where a lot of these fires are happening, there's not much to be had. It's mainly southern Alberta, but look at much of Canada. Really socked in with some good rainfall here. We do start to see some rain here by the end of the month, beginning of July into northern Alberta, but we really need to get more up here. Let's zoom in. Yeah, so some of these areas 60 to as much as 125 millimeters, all the way through the southern provinces here in southeast Canada as well, picking up a lot of good beneficial rain here. All right, getting over here into the Western Pacific, it has been eerily quiet. No typhoons to speak of, just lots of tropical moisture hanging out south of the Philippines. Look at up here in Japan, Korea, South Korea to be particular. Bone dry here as we head through the 18th into the 19th until, So here it is. It's traditionally your rainy season in this area from eastern China, the Korean Peninsula through Japan. And that is where we're going to see the surge of moisture all the way from the tropics. Look at all the way down here, North Vietnam. Conveyor belt of moisture moving towards the northeast here. We'll keep an eye on it here. It looks very interesting. And that moves off the coast right around Japan here on the 22nd. So it clears Seoul, South Korea here. Lots of nice weather to be had. Just to your south here, though, on the extreme southern part of the peninsula, through Japan and Shanghai, China, all the way down through the northern Philippines, you're going to see that conveyor belt of moisture. Now, what's going to be happening? Here's Taiwan. Here's this area on the northern coastline of the Philippines. We're going to watch this and this as well. These two areas, as we go through the end of the month, we may have something developing here, especially northwest of the Philippines. We may have a tropical storm on our hands. It looks like, at least at this point, the GFS moving it towards Hong Kong, but it's anybody's game at this point once this tries to develop, and it may try to make a run up the China coastline here, eventually towards Japan, so we'll keep an eye on it here. But look at that. South Korea up here through Japan, you're having another dry area, so you're actually getting you're not getting nonstop rain here. You're getting breaks. So if you have travel plans over there, you're going to have some days where it's actually sunny. All right, so let's take a look at your temperatures. The heat wave. Let's take a watch at this build. Look at this. We already have heat Wednesday, June 18th here as we watch these mid to upper 90s push up the coastline here. Now look at the Ohio Valley. We're starting to get toasty as well, mid to upper 80s. Now watch here. This is the first surge of heat. Look at that, 90 all the way up to Albany, New York, 94 in Boston, 93 in New York City. Watch this heat build as well. We're going to watch Friday, June 20th here. Look at this. Mid to upper 100s here into parts of western Kansas and eastern Colorado. Watch this push to the east. This is going to be a massive heat wave that pushes here. And some areas are going to be approaching 90 in the Ohio Valley. Now watch Sunday here. Look at this. Mid to upper 90s in some of these locations. You know those heat index values are really going to be cranking into Monday. Look at that, 96 in Wilkes-Barre, Scranton, Pennsylvania. 90s all the way through the eastern Great Lakes. And look at this, interior parts of North Carolina and South Carolina could be reaching the upper 90s all the way up the I-95 corridor here. All right, extended outlook 5-day for my hometown viewers being into Scranton, Upper Susquehanna River Valley, New York, and Pennsylvania. Yeah, we're going to be looking at rain and storms moving in for Wednesday. Thankfully, most of them will not be severe, but we will make it up towards the mid-80s. Humidity will be on the increase into Thursday. Damaging wind, large hail, isolated tornadoes. Threat, especially after 2 or 3 p.m. heading on into the late afternoon and evening hours. This could be a very busy day heading up towards the mid to upper 80s. Friday, we scour that out a little bit, maybe a chance of showers and thunderstorms early, but it'll be your best day most likely as far as humidity is concerned, lower 80s. But watch Saturday and Sunday. Saturday getting to the mid to upper 80s. Heat is building on Sunday. We could be seeing highs into the mid 90s with heat index values over 100. Plenty more weather to come Here is a look at my affiliate. Check out these awesome, amazing maps. I am proud to announce that I am now an affiliate with Trilogy Maps. TrilogyMaps.com, bringing you the most digital, customizable maps found nowhere else on the internet. These maps are simply stunning. It's an advanced layering system that makes these maps great for making forecast maps with ease or any other maps that you would like to display important information on. The resolution on these maps is simply amazing. From the detail of everything here in the States, and you can also create stunning, digital, professional layered maps from also across the entire world. And don't forget, in checkout, the discount code option, use my code, MediaMark, hit apply, and you will get 20% off your order. So if you want the most professional, customizable, and affordable weather maps found nowhere else on the internet, look no further than TrilogyMaps.com. Link in the description down below along with your discount code. As always, thank you for joining me for this edition of MediaMark's Weather. Also, don't forget to join me on Facebook at MediaMark, also Weather Northeastern, also Twitter at Weather Eastern. Don't forget it's MediaMark.com, and don't forget, if you want to send me a coffee, there is a link, Super Thanks. You can smash that Super Thanks button or my PayPal link in the description down below. You can buy me a cup of coffee. Thanks everyone, share that video, subscribe if you haven't, smash that like button.